Welcome back to Light Talk, where everyone can be themselves and tell their own unique paranormal and spiritual experiences with a safe and supportive community. If you have a story you would like to share, email me at lighttalk423@gmail.com. And while you're at it, click on the like, share, and subscribe buttons down below. Well, we have a return guest today, and I'm excited to welcome him back. And welcome back. And this is Michael. So go ahead, Michael. Let's go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you. I'm a paranormal podcaster, paranormal investigator, and grew up what's the word? Metaphysical. Had a brain lapse there for a second. So I growing up that way have had a lot of experiences and Dana and I were talking about it, and I think the one I'm gonna pick for today, because I think it'll be interesting for everyone, is France. My experience in France.
All right. Well, tell us about this France one. You got me all curious now.
So I was in the Cathar region of France, which means southern France, where the Cathars were prominent. And we were walking up a hill because we were staying during the tour at the base of Rennes-la-Château. And so my roommate and I decided one night we're gonna sneak into town because it's such a famous town and it's like a energy powerhouse too. And so we were like, yeah, let's see what's going on up there before everybody else gets up there. And as we're walking up, I can feel myself starting to get a little on edge, like edgy a little bit, and that usually means something's up. It's like a protection for me. So my
Your
edginess
intuition.
means hyper alert.
Yeah. Intuition at work.
So we're walking up, and the hill has like a winding road, but the road doesn't go around the hill. It goes up just a side, but it's winding. And so we're walking up the winding path, and there's some trees and brush along both sides of the hill and the road. And so we're walking up, and as we're walking, I start to hear something moving in the brush. And so I'm like, it's dark. Only a few things live in the brush. This is a road. Let's either get to town or turn back because I don't want to be found on the road
Right.
attacked by something. So we start get going closer and closer, and we actually get to eyesight of the entrance to the city, and we start moving a little faster to get into eyesight, and I notice what's in the brush is moving at the same speed we are. So
Oh,
I go, and all of a sudden I stop. And my friend goes, "We're here. It's just up the way. Let's go." And I was like, "No, we can't." He goes, "No, we can go. It's right there. I can see it." I was like, "We gotta turn around." He's like, "Why? What's going on?" I was like, "Something doesn't want us here." And
yeah.
so we turn back and decide, because he's like, "I trust you." So we turn back, we go back to our rooms and go to sleep. And I can tell he's a little disappointed. We were right there, and
Yeah.
I'm thinking too that he's probably like, "Oh, I chickened out because I didn't want to get in trouble or something." And I was like, "No, I really did have a feeling of something there." And later on, after, returning to the States, when I was thinking about it, these are energy centers, which means they have guardians. So what was rustling in the bushes to me was the guardian saying, "No, no, you didn't ask permission. You shouldn't be here."
Ooh.
And so I was like, good thing I listened to my intuition because don't want to mess with the guardians. And so it was either the next night or the following night. I can't remember in full timeline,
Sure.
but we decided we were going to try again. Well, this time the trip up was very different. So it was very quiet going up. And so I was like, okay, the Guardians are okay with us coming up. So we're okay. Well, we stop on a bench that's like halfway up the path. And we look at the hills that are behind us, and some of them are sacred hills and mountains. And we look, and they're lit up like really bright behind them. And I'm like,
Oh, wow.
either there's a base there of some kind or a large city, but there really isn't a large city around here. The city's on the other side of the hill, and it wasn't lit up that well. So I
Oh,
was
wow.
like, don't know what was behind these, but I then noticed something unique. So the way I can describe this is I had to use a movie reference. So if you've seen the movie 13th Warrior, when they talk about the fireworm, where it's a bunch of people moving with torches towards their location, and it's nighttime, so it looks like a fireworm. Well,
Oh,
this
okay.
started coming down the mountain straight towards us. Now, the interesting thing about this is the fireworm is going through trees, but no trees are catching fire. And
Oh,
it's like,
wow.
and so I'm like, something's coming. So I look at my friend and I'm like, if we're going up, we need to go because something's coming. He goes, what? And I said, look. And I imagine he saw it because he's like, okay, yeah, let's go. And so every time we would go up and make like the little U-turn, so we would be the next level up from the halfway point, we would look and it would still be coming towards us, not making any sound. And so
Was it getting closer or any at all?
it's like, so imagine this is the mountaintop. It's going like this, straight down the side, and then coming towards us. So it's like going like this towards us.
Oh,
And
man.
I'm like, either somebody is like, we're about to meet up with something else than a guardian, or I don't know. I didn't want to stick around and find out. I was like, let's just get into town. So every time we would go and stop to check where it was, I'd still be listening for whatever was moving in the brush
Hmm.
and never heard it. So we get to the entrance of Rennes La Chateau. And yes, I'm going to say that a lot because it's just so fun to say. I stop and we take photos at the rock that says Rennes La Chateau at the entrance to the city, if you're familiar with it. And
I'm not.
we then go through town and we're being very quiet because it's close to 11 o'clock, midnight, I think. So we don't want to wake up the residents that do live there.
Mhm.
Although, kind of have a theory, most of them leave, but still wanted to be respectful. And we get to the spot and we're looking out, and you can see all the like Mount, I want to say Surrogate or something, but I don't remember. It's one of the famous ones there that's got a lot of activity to it. Well, it was glowing, and so was everything around. So, like, we're so here's the tour, Magdala. We're here at the edge. Everything around for like a C, like, from one point to a certain point, arced, was lit up
Right.
super bright. And I'm like, in the back of my mind, I keep going, is this like UFO bases? This is so weird that only this spot is lit up. And we turn, and so we're at the Tour Magdala, which everybody who's into like Templar knowledge knows that's the major temple. And so we're outside and we're taking a couple pictures, to show we were there at night. And this is where it gets interesting for me, especially, not that it hasn't been yet, but
Right.
so we turn and we're going behind the tour, and my friend hears something. I don't hear it, which is unusual. So I was like,
Huh.
what did you hear? He goes, I don't know. I'm going to go check it out. I was like, okay, I'm just going to walk on up the path. Just, catch up when you figure out what's going on. He goes, okay. So I take two steps and I look up and I see this lady in white floating across the path, looking at me, and disappears into the tour. Just as she disappears, my friend appears behind me and goes, it was nothing. And I go, did you see that? He goes, no. I was like, okay. He goes, why? What'd you see? I was like, must have been nothing. And my mind was like, yeah, probably, may not have seen what I thought I seen. So we start walking and we get to the edge of the tour, and we notice in the path in front of us, there's these two lights, and one is here, one is here. So we both look at each other and we're like, you see that, right? And he's like, yeah, I see it. I'm like, I see it too. That doesn't look like car because they're too close together. And how would there be a car at that point? And
Right.
he's like, yeah. So we start walking a little bit more on the path, and the lights, I'm just gonna say the red eyes aren't moving. We then go, there's a short path over here to the right. Let's take that. I don't want to know
Oh
what's
no.
down at the end of this path. And so we turn and veer off, and we find ourselves pretty much at the entrance of Rennes Chateau. We're like surprised because we thought that it was a bigger city area. And so we're like, oh, we're back. Well, whatever that thing is over there, why don't we go back? And so we start going back towards our rooms. Well, this is where it's going to get trippy. So the next day, we're at Castle Pouvert. Well, guess what Castle Pouvert is known for? The ghost of a woman in white who is an omen of death.
Oh no.
And they go, and if you see this woman, you are marked for death. And I'm
Oh.
sitting there and I get this sinking feeling, and I look for a moment and I'm looking at everyone that's around me, and I'm like, I'm marked for death. I saw a woman in white. It wasn't here, but I seen one.
Did you tell anybody
And
that you
tell
saw it?
no, because I was looking at who I was with, and I said, any one of these people, some of them are strangers, but we've kind of bonded a little bit on this trip. And I know the two people in charge of the tour, they're my friends. One was my roommate. I was like, they would go to no end to keep me safe. I'm not putting them in
Wow.
harm's way. So I keep my mouth shut and start when we tour the castle
Wow.
and we end up going to Montsegur on another day. And in the back of my mind is always this, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. But,
Yeah.
I'm not telling anyone. And so it was about probably 6 years later. I get on the phone with my friend who was leading the tour, and we were, reconnecting and talking. And I said, I have a funny story for you. And she goes, "What's that?" I go, "While we were in France, you know how my roommate and I snuck up to Rennes-le-Chateau?" And she goes, "Yeah." I said, "I saw a woman in white who, when we went to Pavere, I read the thing about how it was an omen of death." And she goes, "Oh my God, why didn't you see anything?" I said, "I knew you guys would try to prevent it and I didn't want anyone to get hurt trying to keep me from being marked and having whatever was going to happen." And she's like, "That's not your choice to make." And she was like, "I wish you would have told me." And
Oh.
so we kind of laughed about it. And the reason at 6 years later I came forward about it was I figured if I am, they obviously gave up because I'm still here.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was a different woman in white and I never was, but either way, I'm still here. So I'm gonna share this story. And I started talking about it now. And I mean, and the thing that's interesting about the story, not just, all the little nuances that happened and everything that we saw, to me, it was the power of the mind. That my mind was so focused on because I saw this and read the thing that I read. I so for a long time would be very careful. I would, if
Oh.
I had the most tiniest inkling of a danger doing something, I would back off from it, not do it. And I literally let it control me for a while because I was like, if I'm marked, I'm not starting anything and dying and leaving pieces for people to pick up. I'm like, no, I ain't doing
Yeah.
that to people. And I wasn't starting any relationships. I was like, nope.
That's yeah. Wow.
I'm like, I didn't want to be that
Wow.
guy that goes, "Hey, it's so great, that we're in this relationship and it's so brand new." And the next day I'm dead. And now you're left sitting there going, "Oh
What?
my God," and devastated. And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Sorry, I didn't know when the mark was up." But yeah. And so it's
Wow.
amazing how when we let a fear take over, how much it intertwines, interweaves, and is really hard to yank out.
Yeah. Yeah. That is something we all have to work on. Yeah. Power of protection too, you know. Did you
Yeah.
do any protection before any of this? Before
Oh,
the
I
tour and
always,
all of that? Yeah.
yeah, I always had protection. I mean, I literally always felt invincible. Like nothing was gonna could harm me, spirit world or this world. And seeing what I saw and the fact that she looked at me and reading the story of the woman in white and how if she looks at you, you are now in this scenario. I'm like,
Mm.
how did this happen? How did I let this happen? And I started just on a downward spiral
Uh,
inside, and it took me a while to come back from it and go, okay, I'm gonna move on with my life now and start over and start doing what I should have been doing because obviously if it was, and who's to say, if I was marked for death, apparently I beat the mark somehow because still here.
Maybe your protection was the help. Maybe did she look at you like I'm on to you, or what kind of look does she give you?
To be honest, the look that I kind of feel like remembering is like looking at, like going, almost like a look of, can you see me? Because, it's not like, so it's not the look like the librarian in Ghostbusters where she goes, and freaks out everybody and gets mad. It was just like, a glance over and then back at what she was doing. Almost like, if you were walking and like we like to say a squirrel moment where you're focused on something and you look real quick because you see a movement and back. That's
Yeah.
that's what it was. It was like
Hmm.
and so yeah, maybe, and who's to say, because I saw her, she may not have seen me. And so that's why if there, if she was the one like that of that legend, she may not have been able to see me, sensed something there, but couldn't see it, and so it
Yeah.
never took hold.
Yeah. Or you were so protected that she couldn't see you,
Hmm.
or she couldn't get to you because of your protection, you know?
It is, I
Yeah.
think that because I've had one lady who read my energy and says, "You have a color energy I've never seen before from your birth that's protecting you. So you're good to go. I mean, most things won't get to you like that get to other people. And so, I'm not like special in any way. It's just an experience that I had when I was the experience when I was two, we think is when that was placed on me. A protection from whatever that was getting to me again. And then I had another lady who tried to read my energy, and it was just in passing. She didn't ask, I didn't ask her to. She just said, "Hey, the energy I'm picking up from you has all these symbols that I've never seen before."
Oh,
And so
wow.
I was like, well, that's two layers of protection right there. The color, the symbols,
Yeah, the symbols.
and
Yeah.
another lady who was doing readings, I asked her for one, and she goes, "I gotta say, your energy is very interesting." And I said, and I was like in the back of my mind going, "Oh, this ought to be good." And I was like, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Well, it's amazing what you're doing." And I go, "How so?" She goes, "Well, your energy is like a tornado around you, and you're in the center, and you're like holding all these pie plates,
Hmm.
and you're able to hold them in the eye of this tornado." And I'm like, and I'm like, really? And she goes, and I tried to reach in to see what's going on in there, really. And when I touched the tornado wind, it was like I was repelled. I couldn't get through. And I was like, ah, number three.
Three.
So I have
Wow.
three shields now that I know of protecting me. And so
Wow.
it was interesting too, and how each one was different explanation. So it's not like, so for
Mhm.
me, I think that was better because if everyone had the same one, I could go, Well, if you watched this episode, you heard her say that the first one. So maybe that's why the second one said it. If they watched the episode, to see
No,
if they wanted to be on, and it's just the skeptic in you that wants to make sure you're not misleading or misinformed, and everything's on the up and up. And
right.
so it was just fun for me to hear three different variations of the same thing and going, yeah. So
Yeah.
what's going on is going on. And I actually had an incident though that rocked my world a second time, and it wasn't in France, it was here in Texas. And I think I had time to share this one, do I?
We're about 10 minutes out.
Yeah, it's a really short one.
Okay.
So I was in a jail cell that was haunted, and there was this man-made portal, and there's a reason I say man-made, and I got stuck in it, and I could not hear anything. It's like I just felt drained. My the people I was with, the one in charge tapped me on my shoulder, and I fell right to the ground. And they were
Mm.
like concerned because I hit my head on the steel floor. And I opened my eyes, it felt like, and I was like, what's going on? And they go, you were out. You were gone. We don't know where you were. And I was
Oh,
like,
wow.
what do you mean I was gone? I've been here the whole time. I can sense when energy's around. I can sense portals that are natural, so I avoid them. And they go, you were stuck. And I told a friend that lives in Colorado, and he said, yeah, you got stuck in a portal that someone made and left open. And that's
Mm-mm.
exactly what happens. And so he actually had me get this quince seed I ordered from a lady, and it's a sacred seed that nuns in Italy harvest and put in a resin, and is extremely blessed, and it creates a
Oh,
3 foot
wow.
radius around you
Oh,
that
wow.
nothing is to penetrate. But there's a caveat. If something's inside you and you put it on, it can't get out. So
Yeah, so
you
it's stuck
got
with you.
so when I take it off, I make sure I'm in a clean space, and then I put it back on and go throughout my day. But so yeah, so that's a fourth level of protection that I have on me at all times.
Wow. So what does four mean to you? What
Foundation.
foundation? That's what it means for me too. It's foundation. So you've got your bases covered.
And
Awesome.
what's interesting is the three that internal, to me, three is spirituality. So it's like my spiritual side is shielding me. And so the fourth one being the external one that I bring in is like the foundation to keep the spiritual going. And so, yeah, that's pretty much what I do. And I sage and Palo Santo myself after investigations. So, and I follow universal law of when leaving, if I sense anything around, or even if I don't sense but have a feeling something, maybe I will make a declaration of you can't go home with me. You don't
No.
have to stay here, but you ain't going home with me or anybody that I'm with right now. So, not limiting you, but just telling you, you ain't going home with us.
Right. That's a good thing to say. Yeah. Good thing to do. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, I really appreciate you being on the show again. And I'm sure you have more stories that we can bring you back if you wouldn't mind and having some more fun
Oh,
times.
definitely. I got a story you'll enjoy from Egypt. I got one from Spain yet, Hawaii. So there's at least 3 episodes for you.
All right. Well, we can get that booked anytime you're ready.
Sounds great.
All right. Well, thank you again for being on the show. And anybody else out there that has a story you would like to share of your paranormal or supernatural experiences, email me at lighttalk423@gmail.com or and click on the like, share, and subscribe buttons down below. And we will talk with everybody next time. Thank you so much for being with us. Bye.